But don't worry, Rachel Reeves is coming up later on this morning to talk about growth. She's going to try and sell you the idea that she's working on building the economy. She's working on creating an incredible amount of growth, an incredible amount of prosperity for this country. I'm not sure that anyone with any brains would actually buy that. Let's talk to Chris Southworth, who's Secretary General of the International Chamber of Commerce here in the UK. Chris, very good morning to you.
Morning.
Are you buying this idea that Rachel Reeves knows anything about growth and how to create it?
I think she's doing absolutely the right thing in pushing everybody to go further, faster. We're also saying the same message that we need to be much more ambitious, much more can-do. But she is reliant on the regulators, government, business to respond to that challenge. There's an awful lot of opportunity for us to grow the economy, a lot of which is actually around the reform agenda. So what the government is doing around the planning, regulations, housing, the same, is good. Taking on Heathrow, the airports and infrastructure is also good. I'd like to see a lot more on the trade front. That's £1 trillion of our economy. It's suffocating in bureaucracy, over-regulation, an antiquated system. There's an enormous economic opportunity to rip through some of that, slash a lot of the inefficiency, and really unlock tremendous amount of trade finance into the economy, especially for small business, and get the economy trading again.
Yeah, but every small business I talk to says to me that they're going to be looking at a huge increase in their costs over time, particularly when it comes into April, where they're going to have to pay more for national insurance to all of the employees that they employ. The minimum wage will affect not everybody, but will certainly affect quite a lot of businesses in this country, which is hardly going to stimulate growth, is it? Because people are going to say, we haven't got the money to invest in anything.
Well, the backdrop's tough. I mean, I think every business would relate to what you've just said there and what other businesses say. I mean, we hear it all the time too. But we've got to be positive. We've got to be.
Well, you can't be fucking to be positive when you're. But hang on, Chris, hang on a second. How can you be positive if you're being faced with an increase in costs of somewhere between, say, $250,000 for some businesses, up to maybe 4 million for other businesses? You haven't got the money to invest. You can't grow the economy by taxing businesses more than you did before, surely.
Well, growing the economy is about a lot more than that. What we should be doing, and what I think what the Chancellor is trying to do, is pull all levers available to government. And a lot of that is around regulatory reform. There's an awful lot that can happen around the policy landscape as well. Going back to trade again, we have a roadmap. We know exactly what needs to be done. The short term, the wins are short term. We can deliver growth quickly. But we've got to get on with it, and we've got to take action straight away, and we've got to respond to the challenge to go further, faster. I fully agree with that.
Well, yeah, but that's all just gobbledygook, isn't it? I mean, you're talking in kind of riddles. You're saying go further, go faster, employ more people, stimulate the economy, get involved in trade. Who's going to do that when they've got less money than they had last year?
We don't need money to do it. Like I say,
so you don't need money to create growth.
Every single action that needs to be taken to drive the trade economy. We don't need any money to do that for the most part, but we need to get on and remove.
All right. So who's going to grow? Who's going to grow the economy, and how are they going to do it?
In terms of trade.
Well, in terms of whatever it is you're talking about, because I don't really understand what you're saying. How is the economy going to grow exactly?
So if you look at trade finance plays a fundamental role in financing and enabling trade. Very, very important.
Trade with who?
Suffocating in.
Well, trade with who?
Sorry?
Trade with who?
The rest of the world.
So you want? So who's going to create the products that you're going to sell to the rest of the world?
Business. We've got plenty of business.
Well, can you be more specific? Which companies are going to do it, or which industries are going to do it?
We've got thousands of good companies all up and down the country who trade every day of the week.
Right.
That could be trading more. Terrific brands. There's huge markets out there around the world. We shouldn't put ourselves in a hole. The UK has tremendous amount of talent. There's a lot of demand for that talent overseas. I hear that all the time. But we've just got to make that process easier. That's what I'm talking about. Trade is very bureaucratic in today's world.
Well, why am I not hearing this? And why am I not hearing this argument from any particular companies?
Well, that's why I'm coming on to help make that.
But you're not speaking on behalf of a company. I mean, I'm hearing from Jaguar, for example, or I'm not hearing from, any kind of, British organised, companies.
Well, I'm the International Chamber of Commerce. We represent 45 million companies in 170 countries, including almost all the top tier UK largest trading companies.
Right.
They're all supporting.
Well, so can you tell me which of those companies are being somehow hampered at the moment by not being able to trade with people that Rachel Reeves is going to suddenly help by lifting some veil of restriction on them?
Well, all small companies are struggling to access finance. The cost of capital has gone up, and that's mostly because it's over-regulated, and the processes that sit behind it are very bureaucratic. Reform those issues and push on the regulators to be much more ambitious on trade, and we'll see a lot more.
Yeah, but most small companies are complaining. But most small companies are right now complaining that they can't operate in the same way that they would have done because they're being restricted because of the excessive costs that are being put upon them by this Labour administration. I spoke to the guy who runs Brewdog the other day, which is a pretty decent, I would say, a homegrown British company. Makes a lot of money for this government, makes a lot of money for the Exchequer. The guy who runs it says to me that actually this is the worst an atmosphere for starting a company in the history of the country. He said it's the worst time ever to try and run a business. And he's worried for the future of this economy because so many people are going to be laid off because they can't afford to be employed.
The operating environment is tough. I'm not going to disagree with some of that. What I'm saying is there are opportunities. We must take them. We must make decisions and we must take action. But there is an awful lot of opportunity to drive growth and productivity across the economy, but particularly in the trade economy, which is really suffers from antiquated systems and processes and ways of transacting.
Well, when will we see the benefit of this? When will we see the benefit of this growth that is going to be spoken about today?
From our projections, you'll see benefits year 1, year 2, year 3, certainly within the terms of this Parliament. I'm talking about short-term, immediate actions, not long-term 10-year plans, which also need to be made. But I think we do need short-term actions in order to then drive trade growth. That's what I'm talking about.
But would you not agree with me that by putting up national insurance contributions and by putting up the minimum wage, that is difficult for businesses, particularly small businesses, and it's going to create a less welcome environment for making money and for growing the economy?
I don't disagree. It's a tough environment, but I think you've got to...
No, but was it the wrong thing? No, I'm asking you if it was the wrong thing to do.
I'm not going to say whether it was the wrong thing to do or not. I think the government had to make some tough decisions, and for business it is hard. There's no question about it. We feel the same pain ourselves. So I'm not going to disagree with that, but I don't think you can just only focus on those issues. We've got to focus on the opportunities where we can make a difference and make it easier for business and drive down on those costs, because there are lots of opportunities to do that. But it won't happen unless we push it and drive it to happen. And I think the call from the Chancellor is a good one. We must respond to it. I think we need to push much harder.
Do you think she's doing a good job, Chris?
I think she's in probably the toughest job in the country right now. And
it's a yes or no answer. You can say yes or no.
10 years of very stagnant type of growth and activity. I think
the economy was better in June, was it not? Was the economy not better in June than it is now?
We've had 10 years in the trade side. It's been a disaster for 10 years, absolute disaster, and you can see that in all the figures, the numbers, the data. It's got to get
that's not actually right. That's not actually true, is it? Are you going to tell me it's because of Brexit that we're in a bad place? Are you going to tell me that now?
That certainly played a role for the UK. There's much bigger trends out there.
Do you think we should rejoin the European Union?
That's not for me, or I don't think it's even for my generation necessarily. That's for the future. But we've got to acknowledge that for trade, it was calamitous. It imposed a tremendous amount of red tape on the borders, especially in Europe.
Okay. All right, Chris. I think you're talking an absolute pile of absolute cobblers. Sorry, I've got to let you go. Chris Southworth, International Chamber of Commerce UK.